Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. You may know me as the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, including Chicken Soup for the Baseball Fan Soul with Tommy Lasorda, and also the author of the Success Principles and featured teacher in the movie The Secret. And if you haven't heard about the 162 Challenge by now, I hope you have. This is a really great pledge opportunity for you to make a difference to 4 charities that are helping kids, that are helping fallen firefighters, that are really making a difference in the world. And what you get to do is for every home run that the Yankees hit, you can pledge from 50 cents up to $5 for every home run. And that money then will be charged to you and go to the cause. And if you're a Yankees fan, you want them to hit home runs, so it's a win-win all around. So I always support anything that supports good causes, so I'm supporting this. So Steve and Marybeth are doing this great challenge. They're going to every single Yankees game this year. That's either a commitment or craziness, but I honor them. I wish I was going. It's really cool. And so you can be part of this. Make sure you pledge, make a difference. We're always asked, what can I do to make a difference? This is how you can. So go and do it right now. Go to 162crew.com.
All right, welcome back to Season 2 of the 162 Experience. This is Steve Melia, your host, and we took about a year sabbatical from the 162 Experience. I moved from California out to South Carolina, but we are back in action. We've got a new producer. My girlfriend, Marybeth, is figuring out all this amazing equipment that we have now, and so this is going to be a fun first episode. And Mike Melia, you are in the house. We've got Mike. Mike visited with us a few times in the 162 Experience. Season 1. Mike, welcome back.
Hey, Steve, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And,
what's new and exciting in your life?
Oh, I can't go there.
Yeah, how about your grandkids? How many grandkids you got now?
I got 4 grandkids now, and the 5-year-old Rowan, what he wanted for Christmas from Grandpa Mike was new soccer shoes because he's growing so fast. He keeps growing out of them. And I said, any stipulation? He says, yeah, they got to be red.
Why red?
It's his favorite color.
Okay, there you go. Well, Mike, we're going to jump right into the interview. Season 1, the episodes are about an hour long. I decided that to cut them in half, so we're going to go about 25 minutes or so with the episodes of the 162 Experience. If you hadn't seen Season 1 at all, what we are about is interviewing people and having people on the show that have had success in business, sports, and life. And it's fair to say we'll X out the sports category for you.
Hey, I was a all-star track runner.
You were. You had the New York State track record at one point, didn't you?
My high school track record.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, close.
Just your high school?
I had the Long Island Catholic High School Championship track record for 2 years.
Okay, very specific categories. I thought it was a little better than that, but that's cool. Good stuff. And but thank you for joining on. Mike, you've made your fortune really in the network marketing industry, as I have, but let's take you back a couple of decades before that to Rising Tide, which was the very first natural food store in Long Island, New York, and it continues to be in business today. Tell us what kind of time that was in your life and what persuaded you guys to get started with your first business.
All right, Steve, easy to do that. It's like I was 24 years old, I think, that year, and essentially I'd gotten married and my wife got pregnant. And
Did you know the guy? Just kidding.
Just kidding. But all of a sudden, because before that, I know you guys are going to find this hard to believe, but I was kind of a hippie. Yeah. Traveling around the country, riding freight trains, hitchhiking, having adventures, hiking the mountains out west, going to concerts. I was a big Grateful Dead fan, as you know. Loved the band, loved a bunch of all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I found myself in a situation where I had to settle down. I had to figure out a way. I was informed that kids like to eat every day. And so I decided, well, what am I good at? What am I passionate about? What I was good at and passionate about, I was into what was called macrobiotics back then, was brown rice and vegetables, eating a wholesome diet and stuff. And so my first wife and I decided that what we would do is start a natural food business. And we did that on North Shore, Long Island, Rising Tide Natural Foods. Ironically, the name came from a line of the Grateful Dead song, Uncle John's Band, which you're familiar with, Here Beside the Rising Tide, and just fit in, Now, after about 6 years, I decided I needed more than that because in the beginning, I was a visionary. You wanted to bring this concept out to the people. And then we were successful, and I was a grocery clerk.
Sure. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, Michael Gerber in the E-Myth says, right. The whole idea of a business is to get it, duplicating and then move on and sell it or something like that. But at some point, you can't be in the business every day, right?
Well, exactly. That's how it was for me, right?
Yeah.
And sure. I knew that intuitively, and I was going through a messy time. My wife and I, now we had 3 kids, and we were getting divorced, and it was crazy because the kids are so little. But
so how long were you day to day in the grocery business?
I was 6 years in
About
there.
6 years?
Yeah, 6 years. And we went from like starting on a $5,000 investment to when I left, we were doing about $800,000 a year. We cracked $1 million a year after I left. That business went on to do $3.5, $4 million a year every year consistently. My old business partner is actually a track buddy of mine from high school. He was a Long Island High School champion high jumper. He was only 5'9", 5'10". He used to jump 6'7".
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
So you brought him in on the business, and then after the divorce, you moved on.
Yeah, and then ironically, my first wife and he were business partners for a while, and they didn't really get along. Now he owns the business outright, and he runs it, and it's 41 years old. It's doing great.
Sure.
Rising Tide Natural Foods, Glen Cove, Long Island.
And so what age are you when that stopped, when you got out of that business?
I was pushing 30.
So you're pushing 30.
31.
And
I was 6 years in.
Yeah, and I'm your brother here, so I sort of know the story. That was sort of a low point for you. I mean, I remember you telling stories of you didn't really necessarily have a place to live at some point.
Well, that happened a little bit later on, but yeah, I mean, it was a low point, but I went and took a seminar. Someone suggested to me, you take a seminar and figure out what you want to do. And I took the seminar, and, you know, I didn't know what I was going to do next for business, but these seminar guys looked pretty impressive. I mean, I was sitting in a room with 200 and something people, and everyone was paying $200 a shot to be there. I said, man, that's a lot of money.
200 times 200. Yeah, it's 40 grand.
Yeah, so I thought, man, you know, they're only working 3 days. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, there's a lot of work getting people in the seats and stuff like that, which you know now. So I got in the seminar business, wanted to go to work with a seminar company, worked for them 6 years, running their New York operation, then started out on my own. Was doing good for a while, but was going through some stuff here and there. Wasn't doing that good in the early 90s, and you had gotten out of college, you know, we're 18 years apart and such. And so what happened then was I said, you know, this guy's just, you know, you had come, it was a long story, but I recognized how sharp you were and the potential you had. And I said, I should get this guy to come to work with me. And we relaunched the seminar company, and right around that time, network marketing came, you know, right straight and right.
Sure.
You know, forward and straight with us.
Yeah, and listen, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go back to your seminar days. I know that one of your biggest influences was a guy by the name of Robert Fritz. Tell the people that don't know Robert Fritz, who he is, what he was about, what you've learned from him, things like that. Okay,
well, long story short, Robert Fritz originally, he was a classically trained musician, went to the New England Conservatory of Music, and he played the clarinet. He literally played the clarinet with the Dave Brubeck Five, which was a top jazz band for a long, long time in the late 50s, 60s, into the 70s. And Robert's wife was a tarot card reader, and he saw there's all this metaphysical stuff and music fit together. He started a seminar company.
Wow.
To teach people very specifically how to create what they want in their life.
Sure.
And he didn't care whether it was goals or it was music or whatever it is. What do you care the most about? What do you care enough about to dedicate your life to? And I was like, whoa, you know. And so I learned a lot about how to stay focused on what you want in contrast to what you don't want. Most people, when they decide what they want in life, they look at what they have that they don't like and they react to that. And he was teaching, no, you make it up. If anything at all possible. And that's when I started on that path. This is like maybe 1981, 82, that I got on that path, worked for those guys for a while. And
it wasn't really called personal development or anything back then, was it?
No, not really, no.
Was it metaphysics, would you call it that?
Well, I mean, we had a seminar company. I would say there were seminars. And, you know, previously, a few years earlier, Warren Earhart had launched the S Seminar, and there was some spin-offs of that. Robert's work was a little different, actually vastly different than that. But they overlapped, and we drew a lot of, it was a time where people really were looking for changes. They wanted to make, you know, do better for themselves and stuff. And, you know, so they were attracted to it. And we essentially taught people, you know, like, for example, give us one example. Right in the beginning of the course, we'd have people write down 10 things they have in their life that they don't like having. And then we'd write, okay, given that, what are the 10 things you'd really like to have instead? Not just like, you have a car that doesn't work, you know, get rid of it. No, what do you want? What do you really want? You want to, you know, and people might say, well, I want a car that works. Well, is that all you really want? You know, because most people really want more than that. But they lower their expectations and their desires based on their conditioning, based on what appears to be possible in contrast to what is possible.
And he was like a no BS kind of guy from the stories that you've told me. Can you think of any stories that stick out, like where he just, you know, where you were saying the truth as you thought you represented it, and he just sort of stopped that, you know, in some of his seminars?
Well, I don't know if I can think of any specific ones, but one of the things that he taught me was most people when they look at stuff, something happens in life and they respond or react to it, and oftentimes they assign the reason why that happened. And in essence, they're speculating. They don't really know. They're not really asking the questions. And so Robert really taught me to look accurately at the current reality of something. You want something, it's up here, the current reality's here. There's a difference between them. And most people have a low tolerance for the discrepancy. He taught me to have a tolerance for discrepancy.
And you could call that discrepancy tension or uncomfort.
You could call it tension or conflict. He called it, you said you could have conflict about it, or you can just simply see it as a structural thing. And he called it structural tension. And structural tension says, if you stay clear on the vision, and here's current reality means it's moving. If you stay clear on the vision over time, it will resolve in favor of your vision. If you drop your vision, or you lie about current reality, say it's not so bad, then you have no tension in the situation.
Good stuff. That's powerful.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say about Robert Fritz, or sort of the impact that he had on you as you're
I'll give you a couple of quotes from Robert, and at least one that I'll always remember. And I just remember when he said that, it hit me right between the eyes. He said, it's hard to put your life spirit behind a compromise. And most people settle for less in life. That's what they do. They settle for less. What I learned from that was that the universe will deliver to you what you're willing to settle for. And so if you're willing to settle for less, that's what you're going to wind up with. So I say don't settle for less.
Right.
The other thing Robert really was good at was just being ruthlessly honest with yourself. Just understand who you are, what you're doing, what you're doing, and why you're doing it.
Yeah. What do you think if you hadn't taken that seminar that day? Have any idea what kind of business or industry you'd be in today?
I might have stayed in the natural food business, you know, because I went from owning the retail store to working out in outside sales temporarily. I might have done more of that. I might have, my former wife, Melanie, owns a brokerage, I might have gone down that path, but I don't really know. I mean, it's hard to know because, it was at the moment in the early 80s, nobody was doing seminars, and it was, if I thought I was ridiculed for getting into the natural food business, it was even worse when I got in the seminar business, because people say, how are you going to make any money? And I didn't do that well financially in it until we got involved in network marketing together.
Yeah, and let's talk a little deeper just on psychological stuff, as people, how they feel about themselves. We were on a conference call yesterday where we were talking a lot about self-concept. Mm-hmm. How do you feel like your self-concept was as you were getting into the seminar business? Maybe, I don't know, a little beat up on life. You had one success. Did you feel comfortable standing up in front of the room, talking to people, teaching them how to live their lives? It was a work in progress, and I recognized that I was a work in progress, and I was developing myself as I was doing this. So, comfortable is a strange word, because when I first started standing in front of people, there was nobody more nervous than I was. The first time I ever stood in front of a crowd, it was like 60 people, and Robert Fritz, the founder of the company, was doing a seminar. I was working the video in the back of the room. My only speaking job was to give directions to lunch, and my knees were shaking. I was like, my voice was quavering. Now, today, it's like, we've done it so many times. You've done it, I've done it, stood in front of rooms, talked to people, and now I'm very at home in my skin doing that. Sure. But in the beginning, it was like totally, I was so nervous. I would get hives. You would get hives? Yeah. If I had a speaking engagement, I would get hives, or I might lose my voice. Right. It happened a couple of times. And if you're just joining us in the 162 Experience, we're season 2, and we are live from the Rosen Center Hotel. You might see some folks walking back and forth. We are, Mike and I are up on stage today at 2 o'clock, talking on goal achieving. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. We actually have a different topic, but we've changed the topic. Nobody knows that yet. So let's fast forward then. I know you started to get into how you got into network marketing, and there's an old parable, and I think you heard me share this on a conference call the other day, and I'll say it quickly for the listeners. But there's a farmer, and his horse leaves, runs away one day, and the neighbors come over and say, "Bad luck, tough luck, bad for you, unfortunate." And he said, "Good or bad, hard to say." Right? A couple days later, the horse comes back and he's got 7 thoroughbreds with him. And the neighbors are like, "Hey, things are looking up, good for you." And he said, "Good or bad, hard to say." Right? The very next day, his son is riding on one of the new horses, and he gets thrown off, breaks his leg, clean break. And people come over, so sorry, right? For you, tough luck. And he says, "Good or bad, hard to say." And then The very next day, the Army's coming through. His country was at war, and they're going house to house looking for kids, to fight in the war. And they pass right by him with a broken leg. We don't need you. And they come over and say, boy, that was good luck. And he says, good to bad, hard to say. And I think people are so quick to judge, like, whether something's good or bad. But your whole life changed on meeting a person here, meeting a person there. Maybe tell us, in the seminar business, you met a guy named John Milton Fogg. Yep. And John wound up really getting us into network marketing. Maybe tell a little bit about how all that went down.
Sure. I got into I wasn't interested in getting the seminar business originally. Really, my initial thought, like my business partner Jerry, the guy who runs the store today, Jerry Farrell, great human being. Jerry took the seminar and he wanted me to come and take it. And I was thinking, taking those kind of seminars, that's for broken people. Mm-hmm. That's for people who don't know what they're doing. Not guys like me. I was 29, 30 years old, all full of myself because I had one massive success. It was massive, but that was it.
Well, the industry was called self-help.
Yeah, it was called self-help, right, exactly. So anyway, in the process of that, John Fogg was the person that influenced me in taking that seminar. I met him, I thought he's an interesting guy. If he thinks it's that way, I got involved. He and I became fast and furious friends, and over the next bunch of years, whenever I was in Boston, because the seminar company I was working for in New York was stationed out of Boston. He was living down in Plymouth Rock at the time. We would hang out together. We would speculate, stay up late at night, drinking beer and talking about the future of the world and philosophical ideas. And John really inspired me, so we became good friends. He went off and did work with a company called Celtech, which was an early sort of hippie network marketing company.
Green algae.
So blue-green algae, right? And started talking to me about it. Showed me Don Fayela's book, the napkin presentation. If you've ever seen it, 5 get 5 get 5 and stuff. And I thought, man, that's amazing. But I never liked anything that I saw that they were selling in the multi-level business, the network marketing business, if you will. And
because you didn't want to market vitamins.
I had been in the seminar, and I had been in the health food business, and I wanted out of that. It didn't. Yeah. I was so sick of vitamins.
Were their prices comparable? Was that another thing? It's like, man,
yeah. I mean, what it looked to me was that the network marketing industry, they raised the prices so they could pay all these different levels out. Yeah. I thought, if I ever saw anything that was good, and I said this to John, have you ever seen anything up because he kept bothering me in my mind with his different companies. I said, John, if you ever see something that fits in with me, I'd be interested in looking at it. And until then, please don't say anything. He didn't say anything for 5 years, 6 years. And he calls me up one day and says, hey, this guy's starting a personal development television network. It's multi-level marketing, and it's going to be a private satellite network. And that just hit me. Because at the time, you and I had become partners, and we had become partners with a specific goal of finding a way of getting wealthy. And we were going to do it in the seminar industry, but all of a sudden this was sort of like a seminar industry, but a little different.
Yeah, what I liked about it, I remember that John came to the first seminar that we did together, Falling in Love with Your Future, June 13th of 94, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And we put maybe 80 people in the room, and we were pretty proud of ourselves. And we have another seminar 2 weeks later called Making Money on Purpose.
There we go, right.
And John was like, this is good. He goes, how would you like if, well, first of all, he told me, you got to start selling stuff in the back of the room. That was the little coaching he gave me. And that's what I did. I was in the back of the room. I think we had like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those are our two books that we were pushing.
Got to start somewhere.
And he said, how would you like if half of these people left and they brought a couple people back in 2 weeks? I thought, boy, that would make our job over the next 2 weeks a lot easier, right? Yeah. And he said, that's what network marketing's about. And it was a short time after that. I think it was just a couple days or a couple weeks after that he was in New York with us, that he called us and he told us about what was going to be the People's Network, the TPN. Right. We didn't know the name of it or anything at the time. And it was, everything sort of came full circle. He was ghostwriting a book at the time called The Slight Edge, which was written by Jeff Olson. And Jeff Olson and Eric Worre were the CEO and president of that company.
That's right. Yeah.
And let's talk about law of association. So we just have a couple minutes left.
Okay.
But let's talk about law of associations. Our first couple of years in network marketing, we got to really learn and work with some of the best in the industry. Maybe talk about that influence on us.
All right, sure. I mean, in the very beginning, you'll remember this. I didn't know what I was doing. I said to you, I don't know what to, I called up John, and John was going to be a speaker at a Randy Gage seminar here in Orlando, where we are today. And John, God bless him, bought me an airplane ticket, put me up in his hotel room, and got me free attendance to $2,000 seminar, and I learned a lot right then and there. But the biggest thing I walked away with was two things. One, you want to have a system-dependent business. I still didn't know what that meant, but I knew the words. And the second was I saw people from all different walks of life making some substantial money, people that were not as sharp as I was, in my opinion, or you or anybody. I said, we can kill this thing. Then, secondly, first time we went to a People's Network presentation, Jim Rohn spoke, and that changed. I believe, you talk about the law of associations. Jim Rohn said, it's all attitude and associations, and you become like the 5 people you hang around with. And you and I would joke around about it. We looked at each other. We said, "Oh, we got bad associations," but we went out and studied and did whatever it took to hang out with the people that were way more successful than we were.
Yeah, for
people
sure.
like John Hoffman. We met him way back then.
And Darren Hardy, who many people didn't know now, but know
Darren
now,
Hardy,
is the Compounded Effect and editor of Success Magazine for a number of years.
Yeah, Darren Daly.
Yeah. What'd you learn from Darren?
Well, Darren was a really interesting teacher because Darren.
He was my age. I mean, nobody really knew his age.
Oh yeah, I knew he was about your age.
Yeah, he kept it sort of private.
Yeah.
But
well, Darren. I mean, what? First of all, I recognized when I met Darren after I heard him speak a few times that he had this absolute brilliant streak and he was an amazing speaker. And so he was a great salesperson because when he did a talk, he could always answer all the objections before you could speak them. He just answered boom, 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 boom. But then the other thing I really learned from him was that, he said, look, in this business, you're an independent associate. You're not a dependent associate. So even though he was essentially our sponsor, he didn't take our phone calls,
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do anything like that.
He never. Yeah.
He just directed us to what we needed to do on our own.
Which was probably the best thing for us.
It was the best thing for us. Because when we came over, long story short, that company went out of business. We got bought out by Prepaid Legal, now Legal Shield, and he didn't come over. Because he didn't come over, the good news for us was he never helped us before, but we studied everything he and his partner Kate had ever done, and we duplicated it our first 6 months in this company, and the rest is history, really.
Yeah. Final questions here as we wrap up. What do you love most about what you do and the career that you've been in? We got a baby crying here over there. But that's what happens. People have sex, they have babies, and they cry. So this is not a surprise. This is it's good or bad, hard to say.
Well, good or bad, right? I got 4 kids, good or bad. So far, it's been good, but hard to say. 4 grandkids too. You asking?
Will I let that little crap out? No. What do you love most about the network marketing career? 'Cause that I think that's where you have the most teaching. You're going to go and speak in front of thousands of people this weekend. You do that a lot of weekends. What do you love most about it?
There's probably 3 things I really love about it. Number one, you got to say, the lifestyle that the money buys is just incredible. I mean, you just got to, it's like, you and I can get on a plane, go wherever we want, whenever we want. If you decided that you wanted to go to Hong Kong tonight, you could literally do it if you wanted to. I don't see why you want to go there tonight because we're busy. But,
Yeah, I'd probably book it a little bit in advance.
But I can go see the kids whenever I want. Yeah. I learned to book in advance too, et cetera. But that's number one. Number 2 is the value that we're bringing to the marketplace. Because it's network marketing, we can reach out and touch so many more people. So that value is so great, and we get remunerated for it. Number 3 is the people. And I don't think anything replaces the people. I said this on stage last week in Detroit when I was there, and that I'd been interviewed by a magazine once, and I didn't realize I'd said it until I read it in the magazine. But I said the hidden gold here are the people. And it's the people. We're the people business. You got to love people, but we have made so many friends. Our good friend, Mr. Tim Halligan, hanging out with us right now, listening to this podcast.
In the studio
with us, and and it goes on and on and on. We would have never met people like Hoffman. We'd never met people like Don Thompson, or the list goes on and on and on of the wonderful human beings that we've had a chance to, Darnell Self and his whole crew, and Brian Carruthers and his crew, and then of course there's in Legal Shield that they award the platinums with a platinum trip every year, and that has been blowing my mind. I mean, we just this year we went to Barcelona, right. Oh, I know my Barcelona t-shirt I had on yesterday. We went to Barcelona I went for 2 weeks, but we had a great time. Last year they brought us to Rio. This year we're going to Iceland. We've been to London. We've been to France. We've been to California, Hawaii, Italy.
Yeah.
Had fun in Italy. We had a good time in Firenze.
So one more question, well, I have another follow-up question after that, but when you started to talk about your magazine article, I thought you were going to refer to something different. I don't remember if the first time, if you remember the first time.
I remember the first magazine
and
article.
then they wound up using, not only as a quote, but as a headline. It said something like, success in this business is like picking up girls.
No, I didn't say picking up. I said meeting girls.
Okay, meeting girls. I apologize. That's why I'm asking.
No,
That's why I'm
I know.
asking. And what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, because like it's about meeting people. It's about going out and getting out of. When you're meeting a girl,
Sure.
you know, if you decide you look over there and I'd like to talk to her.
Keep your eyes off the producer.
She's very beautiful.
Thank you.
But if you do that, initially, immediately all your comfort zone issues comes up. What if she rejects me? What if this? What if that? And you have to walk through those things and say hi anyway. You don't have to be fancy. Fancy lines are for idiots.
Right.
I mean, girls see right through that.
But you do have to talk to people. You got to talk to enough people.
Yeah, and his business, you got to talk to people. So you got to want to talk to people. And of course, you remember the very famous day when one of our mentors told us, even meeting girls, it's a numbers game. I mean, if you get rejected, so what? That's going to happen.
Right. Hey, final question before we wrap up. We got Mike Melia here, episode 1 of season 2 on the 162 experience. I haven't said it the whole time. I'll say it now for those of you that don't know. I wrote a book called 162, The Almost Epic Journey of a Yankee Superfan, where I attended exuberantly every New York Yankee game in one season. In 2011, it started on March 31st, I believe, and went through September 28th. They lost in 5 games in the playoffs, and then I decided to go to the first 9 games of the next year, and I am the current world record holder. It's non-disputed, 176 straight games.
Wow.
And Mike, there is talk that I'm going to do it again this year.
I heard there's
rumors going around that I might repeat my crazy journey.
Well, I'm definitely in for the Seattle trip in September.
Yeah, I'll put you down for that. Are you going to buy my tickets?
No, but I can arrange for it.
Good. Hey, final question for Mike Melia here on the 162 Experience. Biggest challenge that you've personally had to overcome in your network marketing journey, and how'd you deal with it, or what lessons did you learn? Biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge was getting over my own negative self-doubts and stuff, I don't think I've ever really given voice to that before you just asked that question. Because people ask me all the time, but we went like crazy. We worked like crazy right out of the gate. We had a lot of success early on, but still that nagging negativity really didn't, until we were truly successful, it didn't start going away.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't do right, too. Like, we worked so hard that it made up for all the stuff we screwed up.
Yeah, and we know. And also, the design of the first company we were with, if I look back knowing what I know now, I never would have signed up for that company. But it's a good thing I did, because it led us to this company.
Good or bad, hard to say.
Good or bad, hard to say. Exactly. That's a good idea. That's really good.
I say that a lot.
Yeah, good or bad, hard to say, yeah. I like that. I really do like that.
Yeah. So how would you say that you either learned or got past that?
Well, you and I became really avid listeners to Jim Rohn, and I already was in the seminar industry, and I understood goal setting. I understood, building what you talked earlier about how to create a positive self-image using your subconscious mind. I knew a lot of that stuff, but I still had some of that other stuff that needed to be turned.
Sure.
And it was Jim Rohn more than any other person. He said you've got to take 100% responsibility for what happens on your watch.
Love it.
And at that moment in time, I stopped. I didn't just master it immediately, but I stopped blaming other people. I stopped blaming the outside world. I stopped blaming my ex-wife. I stopped blaming the economy. I stopped blaming all that other kind of crap, like Jim Rohn said.
Yeah, good stuff. Mike Melia, thanks for being on the 162 Experience. Hopefully we'll have you back again.
All right.
Look forward to sharing the stage with you later today. Hey guys, we're Peace Out 162 Experience. Thanks to Marybeth Longona for producing our first episode, and we'll see you guys real soon. Peace out.
Adios.